You're listening to the Cinik Radio Podcast. Now, your hosts, Igrihe and Cinik.
That's right, and you are listening to another episode of the Cinik Radio Podcast. And I'm your host, Cinik. And joining me, as always, your friend and mine, Igrihe. And on this week's jam-packed show, I got a chance to sit down and talk to the amazingly talented Dany Garcia from Fear the Walking Dead. Folks, she's as friendly in real life as she is ferocious on the show. We also review the alligator-infested Luciana featuring Fear Episode 13, Blackjack, because we are the Cinik Radio Podcast. Like, listen, subscribe. Most importantly, stop leaving the keys in the tank, Al. I am super excited for our guest this week. You may remember her from Prison Break as Sophia Lugo, but us Walking Dead fans will always know her as the ass-kicking, no-nonsense Walker Slayer, Luciana Galvez. Dany Garcia, thanks for being here with us. Let's get right to it. Now, I know you have a background in dance, but did you do any type of theater before jumping right into acting?
I did 2 years full theater with nothing else. I come from ballet. I full-on dance my entire life, and then when I turned 15, I was like, I realized like my friends were like injuring their ankles and they were kind of turning me speeches. I'm like, I don't want to teach at 17 and be like retired. So I realized I want a career for life, and I modeled for a little bit, and a friend of mine suggested theater. So it just kind of felt it's like the perfect fit. So that's how I started.
Now, has your background in several forms of dance benefited you with fight choreography? The few times I have seen you go hands-on with a walker, it's extremely impressive.
Oh, thank you. You know, it does, but I didn't know that. Actually, the stunt coordinators, they were more excited about teaching me how to fight than I was myself. I was like, I grew up with two brothers, but I never fought them, you know, like some girls, they just like, I grew up with two brothers and I used to get punched and I punched back and I learned. No, my brothers kind of loved me a lot and they didn't do that at all. As I was getting deeper into like fighting scenes and all that, they were right, the stunt guys. They were like, no, you have a muscle memory that remembers choreography, whether it's dance or fighting. So, you know, left hand, you kind of know where it goes, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So I kind of like started getting my confidence there, and little by little, it was like happening. I didn't know I had that in me. It was funny. It was great.
Now, you were cast in season 2, and the Walking Dead universe couldn't be bigger. What was your reaction to being cast on Fear?
Well, I knew The Walking Dead really well because I knew a lady named Sarah Wayne Kelly, and she started as the wife of Rick Grimes. So I kind of knew when the whole thing started, like, coming together. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And I remember I called her and I said, oh my God, Sarah, poor you. You're going to be in the middle of nowhere, covered in blood. It's going to be so hot. Oh, God. But good luck with that. And then here I am, like, 3 years later, covered in blood, in the mud, in Mexico, like, killing zombies. But you know what? I could not be happier. I knew what I was getting into. I knew, you know, what was going to happen. Like, it's a beautiful universe, that amazing fan base, and I just knew, I just went in hardcore, like full on, and I just haven't stopped. I'm very delighted to still be part of it and keep killing the walkers.
Speaking of the walkers, they do an amazing job on both shows with the makeup. Have you ever gotten used to it, or does sometimes it still creep you out?
It creeps me out every time. Like, for example, right now I'm on hiatus. Like, we're taking a break. Everybody's like home. No walkers around, right? Unless you go to Georgia, and then you're going to see the Walking Dead guys dealing with that. But on this side of the world, no more. So usually when I go back to it hits me like the first 2 days, because it's not a normal thing to see in front of you every day. You know, a bunch of people covered in blood looking at you like they want to eat you, like for real, eat you and infect you. It's like, it's not normal. And then you eat with them, and it's like all this crazy thing that your mind has to like go back to basic again. It's like, it's hard. You know, after like 4 days, you just want to be buddies with them. You're like, okay, I got you. But once in a while, there's like one guy that, like, every 2 episodes, there's usually a crazy walker with a crazy makeup. And I'm like, whoa! Like, it's kind of like, whoa! It's really cool. I love my job.
It's really unique, too, because they just keep upping the bar of the walkers. The more they decay, the more they're falling apart.
Yeah, I know, they are. It's really fascinating. You cannot get old. It never gets old. It's awesome.
Now, Luciana has been one of the most kick-ass characters since she's been introduced. But how would you, Danay, the actress, do if you were put in similar circumstances?
I think Luciana will be proud of me. I think Luciana and I will get along. I think I put a lot of who I am into it, too, to be honest. I mean, the truth is that when you're dealing with this kind of like, genre, like the walkers, the apocalypse, for like 8 months out of your life, right? Like every day you wake up to deal with this kind of world and the character, you can't help but to start thinking of survival instincts yourself, personally, the actor, me. You know, you start thinking, wow, what would I do here now? Because you're so used to now so many obstacles that for like 8 months, like at some point you start thinking of yourself and how would you approach it and like you start thinking about it, you know. You know, I put a lot of my own strength into it, and I have a lot in common with Luciana in a way, because, you know, I stand for what I say and what I believe, and it's just beautiful to play too, you know. She surprises me too, by the way. I'm like, wow, she has I thought this year was going to be bad, but it's worse than what I thought, you know, like he always raises the bar in terms of like overcoming obstacles. But I think I will be buddies with her. I think I think I would do a lot of things of what she does, to be honest. Like, for example, the beer situation. I would totally get him a beer and then try to look one for me.
I absolutely love that story. It was so great. All season, everyone's been paired off. I really think she needed to go it alone on that journey.
Yeah, I mean, it also is, it gives it a little bit of justice too, because, you know, it's funny because, we met Luciana apart from the family. Like, she already had something going on by the time she meets Nick, and now that Nick is gone, it's really important for her to figure it out on her own, you know? Like, where does she belong? If she wants to still be part of his family, it has to be her own choice. And having this episode to explore, what would I do if I find a stranger today? Am I that bitter? I would just kill him up and I'm like, you know, just get over it? Or would I really take the time to discover what the capacity of my love for society, for myself, for what the future could possibly hold? So it was really nice to have the moment to discover that, you know, from the characters.
It was such a great character arc, and I hope it's the road to recovery for her. We talk about decisions like that a lot on this show. I mean, would you jump in the oil tank like Madison did for June? Would you run across the field to save Jim like Morgan did? The answer has to be yes if you want to keep your humanity intact. If you want to save your soul, you need to make sacrifices like that and take chances to save the person next to you. Now let's talk about the cast for a second, because they seem especially tight on social media. What's the vibe on set? Are you guys one big happy family? Does everyone get along?
Oh my God, yeah. Are you kidding me? I mean, we go through so much together. It's like really hard not to like love each other. I mean, we spend so many hours together. We've been shooting in Mexico, like, Alicia Coleman, and we Kim and Frank, and we go back from Mexico. And it's like, it's been every year, like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, it's a journey every year. But now that we finally made it to Austin, it's like a new, complete chapter. We got new characters, a new city that we have to, kind of like survive in the middle of while we're working, because we don't have time to go out so much. We're like always working. So right away, you start like bonding with whoever is coming. And it's not a surprise that they're fun. This is not a job that everybody can do. It's a job that requires so much focus, and it's not an easy job. So the actors, they really come knowing that and knowing that unless you make it fun in your mind, it will be fun.
Well, it's the same no matter what you do for a living. Any job could be hard if you make it hard.
Exactly. So, but this one's particular because we're really in the middle of nowhere. There's no studios or green screen here. So it's, we're really dealing with our, putting ourselves out there in the heat, in the cold, in the snow, because it snowed 3 times in Texas. So it's like, oh, well, we kept passing each other, like, the hot tea, like, you want some? We look after each other. So it's how it's supposed to be. It's fun, too.
With all the new faces on set and characters on the show, which one is your favorite?
The new characters, I absolutely adore John Dory. He defines Texas. He defines the apocalypse. He defines what a man, is like, what a man could be, a man in love, a broken man, a man that needs hope. And he's so genuine, and he plays it so beautifully. And Garrett, he's such a sweetheart. So, John Dory, voting for that.
With the new faces coming in, we lost some old veteran characters. Which loss was harder on you, Frank or Kim? And do you think Luciana will ever recover?
When I saw Frank Delane, the one that plays Nick Clark, was really hard, then it hit me harder, Kim Dickens, because to some extent, when we knew that, Nick died, he's still in the show. Like, you could see him every day. We kept shooting up until episode 8. So when we finally made it to episode 8, that we established that Kim Dickens is dead, and also shoot it, and also that Frank Delane is leaving now, physically leaving Texas because it's done. It was like, I don't know what was hard, because it was the loss of 2 people that we adore at the same time, It was interesting because Nick died, but I still had him in my life. Like Luciana, we were still playing the flashbacks. So it was still around. Like, I didn't feel the loss until episode 8 that Kim Dickens also, established that she died. So both, this whole thing was like heartbreaking, and to some extent, I had to put myself together. I know the rest of the cast too, because we really wanted to give them justice. We really want to do a good job for them. We really want to honor what they created, and it was really special.
Now, obviously, you're bound to what the writers want your character to do, but could you personally ever forgive Charlie for what she did?
Damn it. Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. You see, it depends on how she behaves. If she keeps betraying us and doing all this, like, not acceptable things that puts my life and everybody I love in danger, how could you forgive that, But there's a part of me that also, she's a child. And that's why, I think that's why they picked her being a girl. And not just any girl. She's such a beautiful girl, too. Like, oh, God, can you make it worse? So I think at this point, it depends. It depends, because at the end of the day, we're really trying to survive. And in order to survive, you have to forgive. But not forget, but definitely forgive.
All season since Morgan's arrival, it seems like all signs are pointing towards Alexandria, Virginia. Would you like to see a full crossover with The Walking Dead, even if it's just brief for a few episodes?
Well, I have to say, I love the Walking Dead cast. I met them. I love them. They're amazing. I always tease them like, oh my God, what if we just like become one really, really, really big happy family? I mean, how could you not? They're like amazing people, and they're so good at what they do. It's like you asking me, imagine if I am like, I don't know, a Marvel character, how would I not want to, fly and save the world with Superman? Of course I want to meet Superman, and I want to get to see, his superpowers. You always want to hang out and learn from the best, from the, other characters that you adore and respect.
That is a fantastic analogy. Now, I was checking the Walker Stalker guest list for Atlanta, and I see that you're going to be there, which I'm hugely excited about. Have you done many cons, and have most of your interactions with the fan base been positive?
I started doing that this last year because, we started shooting in Austin, so I'm like in the U.S. Because when I was in Mexico, I would have to do like an international trip every time, even to go to Atlanta, for example. So it became complicated. But this year I was like, I want to try. I want to get to meet the fans. We work so much for them. I mean, we really want to tell them the best story possible. it's nice to get some love, and it has been the most amazing experience ever. Like, oh my God, they're so beautiful. They're so kind. I love them. Yeah, it's been great. I've been doing, not so much because I had to rest and work and all that, but I definitely been to a few, and it's been lovely. I'm going to Germany, actually, to a con this weekend.
That's fantastic. Cons really are everywhere now. And that's the great part about this show is the fan base. It's so loyal. You could be on the show, and if you make an impact, they remember that character forever. Alicia Witt is a perfect example. She's a veteran actress. She's great everywhere she's been. She was good on the show. And I see her at Walker Stalker Con, and her lines are as long as everybody else. The Walking Dead fan base is amazing, and it really says something that they'll embrace somebody in that short of period of time.
Our fans understand one thing, is that they are not small characters, only small actors. That our fan base gets it so well, Outside of seeing you on Fear every single week, where can my listeners find you on social media? My social media is Dany Garcia and then the number 1, Dany Garcia 1, and Instagram, Twitter, Dany Garcia 1, and official Dany Garcia on Facebook. So I post a lot of things about what I do and what I believe in and what I love. Recently, I first co-directed, produced, and wrote a 35-minute short film called The Cure, which I did on my hiatus last year while I was on my break from Fear the Walking Dead in Mexico. It's my first story that I kind of like start, that I wrote, co-produced, and co-direct, and it just got submitted to festivals, so I keep people posted with that because I heard some interest in that. And other than that, I'm just like getting ready to, rest a little bit from the apocalypse and talk to fun people like you guys.
I've actually been reading on IMDb about it, and it looks great, and I can't wait to see it. So when it comes out, I hope you come back on so we can talk about it.
I would love very much so that, for sure.
Danay, you're an amazing person. I can't express how grateful I am for you coming on. Thanks so much for being here. You can check out Miss Garcia every week on Fear and on social media, so make sure you send her some love, and keep an eye out for The Cure coming soon. Now stay tuned for our review of this week's episode of Fear the Walking Dead entitled Blackjack. So the episode name is Blackjack, which I guess goes after the candy that was in John Dory's pocket, right?
Yeah, yep, that would be accurate.
We opened the episode with them going back to look for June's, I guess I would call him a frenemy, and maybe Al's tank. I was a little worried there going into it because did they take all the capable fighters with them?
Yeah, and I wasn't sure about it either. It was like, they were kind of hung out to dry a little bit. Like the only one that was around yet, just there was nobody, and they're looking for things, and they were, it seemed like at the beginning this could be another rough episode, but it ended up being really good. Like I really, really enjoyed this episode, like as a whole. Like it started out a little slow, it started out a little troublesome, but it worked. Like it built into something super impressive.
It really did, and it was much deeper. I mean, we didn't get a lot of action. There wasn't tons of walkers. There wasn't tons of killing, but it was all on an emotional aspect. Like, we got a lot of character development in this episode, and I was excited about it, and we'll get into it a little bit later in the show, but the pairings actually worked out really well this week. Well, they leave them alone, IG, and I'm just not sure what to think of Sarah and Wendell yet. Do you think they can handle themselves? They haven't showed themselves to be able to.
No, they haven't shown themselves, but they're still here, and they're still kicking, and a lot of people aren't. That's got to say something. Like, you've got to have some kind of plan or some kind of way around something if you're still here. Because, I mean, if you see people moving around all over the place and not running into anybody for miles, and that's just not the world we live in, especially a lot of the places they've been have been places that should be pretty well populated. So the fact that they're still moving around and as healthy as they are, that's the trick. They're not only living, they're thriving. So they've got some kind of plan. They're making it work.
Yeah, Sarah wandered off screen and killed a few, which I really would have liked to see them let Mo get some blood on her hands. I thought that was kind of cool. And I'm loving the trap on the back of Wendell's chair. I just didn't quite understand why it was aimed towards the chest. I mean, so he can turn around and stab them. I thought it would have been a little nicer if it was kind of further up, but it definitely unexpected. It was a neat sight gag.
Yeah, I did not expect that at all, and it was really cool. You know, when you have innovation in the apocalypse, you know, when you've turned your disability into a killing machine, I think that's a fun thing. And he was trying to turn around with his rebar and like trying to get his kill, and then here she comes from off screen and she's going to get her own kill. And so I thought that was pretty funny.
Are you getting the sense that you can trust Sarah and Wendell? I mean, and Jim as well. I mean, even him, he was just kind of like, oh, I don't know why we're doing this. I don't know why we're helping people. And I think the guy forgets it wasn't just a week or two, but this guy was screaming for help in the middle of a field with his hands bound. You know, you got to look at it from the aspect of what if it was me? Would you want people to come back, right?
Yeah, well, Jim is the one I'm not sure I can trust. The other two, I'm wondering, are they really good at acting, or are they just the kind of people that are just so genuine that you just can't help but like them? You know, I've run into a few people that were just, for lack of a better term, just the nicest people and the most giving and most genuine people I could ever find. And they weren't the nicest to Morgan the first time around because they left him on top of that truck. But they have continued to put food out and boxes and deliver things and stuff. So there's something about them that I don't see this as a ploy to try and trap people, because they're not chasing these things down all that much. You know, they're putting this stuff out there and moving on down the road. Yeah,
I agree. It kind of reminded me of Thor a little bit. They were just in need of leadership. You know, they needed Morgan to come along and take over, sort of like Loki did with Corrigan. You know, it looks like you guys are in dire need of leadership, and they're like, thanks. They really look like they are. Like, there's not a thinker amongst them. You know, they're apt thieves, and it looks like they might have been truck drivers pre this happening, but definitely not much of a brain trust there. Has it grown endearing to you that Sarah constantly has to give everybody she encounters a nickname?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I mean, I've known some people like that. I mean, you know, a lot of people just like shorten mine. I mean, you know, I've got Igrihe, but everybody calls me IG or Ig. You know, I mean, why not? It's a nickname, and that's basically all she's doing. Maybe she has a problem with regular names, and it's easier for her to remember if she gives them a nickname. Could be plausible, and, you know, maybe it's just the only way she can remember some way to do something. And if she assigns it to them in kind of a fun, friendly way, they're okay with it, because I don't think anybody's taken any offense to any of the nicknames, because none of them are all that bad, really.
Other than Morgan, who continuously tells her, please don't call me that.
Yeah, well, Morgan is a brand all of his own, because the nickname she was giving him, what was it, like Moo or something? You know, it's Momo. Yeah, that's not terrible. That could be a lot worse.
Yeah, at least they're not insulting nicknames. They're plays off of people's names.
Yeah, she didn't call anybody Lunchbox or anything. I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
Sorry about that, Lunchbox. I let them become what they were meant to be. What exactly is the filthy lady's scheme here? What is her plot? What is her ploy? Is she looking to kill everyone and turn them into walkers because that's what their intent to be? Or is she looking to just prey on the weak and make the others strong? What do you think's going on with her?
Yeah, I'm still confused. I guess my initial thought in this episode when she was talking to the people that way was that this is how you bring people out of their weakness, is by forcing them to be strong. Because if you don't be strong, she's going to turn you into something that is naturally strong, which is the walkers. The walkers are naturally strong. They will go single-mindedly after the one thing they want, and that is to bite people. So that makes them strong on their own. And so if you're not going to stand up and strengthen yourself, she's going to remove the weakness from you.
Do you weaken people by helping them?
Not necessarily. I don't know as you necessarily weaken people by helping them, but if there's a level of help where you're basically doing it for them. And I think that some of these boxes they're putting so many things in there that, you know, if people become used to them and know how to find them, they're basically done having to try anymore. And you have to try. Like, you have to make some kind of effort in this world, not only to survive, but to thrive. You have to start standing yourself up and start rebuilding society and start trying to do something other than just being alive, because just being alive by itself in this world would be weakness, just being alive.
And a great comment by Lynn, because she was monkeying with one of the bottles. I mean, if she's putting poison or something in them, that could be a bad thing for everybody involved. And if you're thirsty enough, who's going to look at a seal in a situation like this?
No, nobody's going to. It's a bottle of water. They're gonna open it up. They're gonna take a look. They're not even gonna smell it. They're just gonna open it up and start drinking. So literally, they could put anything in it, and it wouldn't be a problem.
We really don't know what she's putting in the bottles. We really don't know if she's tainting whatever food's there. They haven't even given the character a name yet, and she seems to be the villain of the season. All I know is that, she's damn frightening, especially behind the wheel of that tank. But we cut over to John and Strand, and they're marooned on an island, and John's trying to figure a way out. And he builds the world's worst raft. I mean, it is terrible. So my question for you, and the question of the show, is, would you rather fire bullets made by Eugene or get on that raft made by John?
No, I think maybe the bullets. You might only get that hand sting or a little bit of, side damage or something from that, because that raft is not. He didn't even build cross supports to get it to stay flat. Like, it was just all lined up the same way, just like, I don't know. Have you ever tried to, like, it's kind of like a moon bounce, a bounce house, right? You try and run around and be real stable in there. It just does not work. And this is even worse because you're going to put it on water that has walkers and a giant alligator. So there's no winning with a poorly designed raft such as this. It is literally the worst design ever. And I gave John Dory way more credit. And I think this is another, suspension of disbelief, because he's got to be smarter than that to build a raft that doesn't even have cross supports on it.
Well, I think a lot of it was, I just want to get out of here as soon as possible and continue my search. I don't think I'll, craftsmanship, but I love the fact that he tried to get Strand to get on it with him. Like, oh, there's room for two, when it wouldn't even keep him up. But Strand's just bemused and kind of looking at him and going, all right, buddy, go ahead, get on that raft. Let's see.
Yeah, he brought a chair down to watch him go out into the water, which was hilarious.
John reminds Strand that if we don't fight every day, then we're no different than the past. And I love his phrasing of calling the walkers the past. I mean, running out of food, sure, but not optimism. But it turns out that they're surrounded by alligators, and the alligators are eating the dead. Where is this going exactly? And do you think there's a possibility that we see zombie alligators?
Well, I guess, some of what I've seen is that we haven't seen any other zombie type animals, because there have been plenty of altercations with walkers and wildlife. We've seen where they get cornered by deer and everything else, and somehow we don't get any walker deer or wolves or anything else. So I think that it's one of those things where it's purely a human disease, and animals probably don't have any real susceptibility to it. So maybe, but I think zombie alligators would be the end all be all. Like, that would make this whole season. That would be the coolest thing. Like, the only thing that could top that was if, all of a sudden Shiva came coming out, Walking Dead style.
I just don't think that handgun would have killed that alligator, even if he hit it. You're firing through water. Those things are pretty well armored. I'm not sure, because they usually hunt alligators with pretty high-powered rifles. So I don't know if John's gun would be enough.
It depends on the load. I mean, shooting it in the head, it'd probably do fine. But, the thing is that looked like a much larger than average alligator. Like, really big. It was really big. You don't run into many alligators the size of this one. And that was one of the more impressive things to me, because it was like the size of the second boat they made. It was really huge, just body and head wise. I could not. That was harder for me to swallow than some of the other things, really.
Well, I had a feeling there had to be more than one, because it was eating bodies at a rapid pace. But I mean, it's been a year or two, and if that thing's done nothing but eat the dead, there could be a possibility that that thing would be that big. You know, it's just open season. You know, we watched him eat, at least 4 to 6 walkers just in the span of time while they were trying to get across the river. So it's a possibility that it could have grown that big. But back at the truck, Morgan and his band of merry men revolt a little bit after hearing the filthy woman say on the radio, I know what you are. But it's quickly put down with one swipe of his shovel. Did you get a kick out of how quick Mo and Wendell and the rest of them kind of surrendered? I mean, SWAT, okay, I'm good. They must be part French, right?
Yeah, that's right. Throw up the flag. And it just kind of leads to, like, Morgan doesn't really need a staff. He has any type of stick-like object. He turns into a badass. And, he's got this awful shovel that, can we please get Morgan his stick back so he can stop carrying the shovel around? But he made it work, and just like she started to pull out a knife and whap, out it came. Okay, we're on your team now. I guess, if you can take me out with a shovel, then what can you do if we give you more effective munitions?
It wasn't even the business part of the shovel. It was the handle, which was really hilarious. Also funny that she walked away from the knife without even bending over to pick it up. I got a kick out of that too. We find Lucy kind of roaming around looking for Charlie still. It's past the storm for her too, where she finds Clayton stuck in a car after a car accident and apparently trapped. His final request, not for people, not for food, but just one beer. So I pose this to you, IG. What would your final request be? If I said you could have one more thing of anything, what would you want on your way out the door?
A Reese's peanut butter egg. Oh, that's my Twinkie. That's my Zombieland Twinkie, a Reese's peanut butter eggs. Those things, like the flat ones, not the ones that are totally wrapped in foil, the ones in the sleeves. Those are heaven. Like, I am not a candy eater. I don't eat a lot of candy. I'm not a big fan of overly sweet things, but Reese's peanut butter eggs are just the bomb. And I buy them every year around Easter and forbid anyone else in my family from eating them. And my wife will still eat them and then try and be sneaky, and I'll catch her and we have a fight for like 3 days. Because I'm like, I don't eat any other candy in this house except for those. That's all I want. And she just, but they're so good. I want some too. And I'm like, get off of my candy. So yeah, Reese's peanut butter egg.
You can tug on IG's cape. You can spit into the wind. Just don't eat his Reese's peanut butter egg. I love the fact that the world is crumbling around them, and Morgan and the rest of them are still trying to help people and find their friends. I mean, it's a nice change from The Walking Dead, where everything is kind of dog eat dog, and it's everyone out for themselves. And over in this part of the world, there's actually still people trying to help one another, and they're not fearful of the living.
They're really not, and they're almost more trying to bind together and giving everybody a chance without their little 3-question test that they want to do over in Alexandria. I kind of like the bring them in first, ask questions later mentality, because they are so few and far between that you need all the people you can get. I mean, what Negan said is true. People are a resource, and if you don't have enough people, you aren't getting anything done. So it works better to start trying to bring some people in.
John and Victor find a truck cap so they can build Raft 2.0, but Strand almost gets himself killed trying to get a bottle of hooch out of the truck before it flips over. What's driving him and his promotion from rookie to professional alcoholic?
Look, man, if Ron Swanson says that is the best thing to drink, it's got to be right. It's Lagavulin, man. It's the best whiskey around. It's really, really good. But you know what? Going professional in the apocalypse is about the right time to do it. If somebody's got to be the number one drinker, why not Strand? Like, he is nailing it down pretty well, and he still seems at least half functional, except that this time he almost got killed getting a little bit of hooch. But it was quality hooch.
I like the scene, but I have some problems with the way that it was done, and also that the walker just happened to be killed by a random branch that was placed directly into his mouth.
How about the fact that he wasn't even sore from rolling that truck 3 or 4 times on the inside of it? He wasn't belted in, nothing. He came out of that with not a scratch. Didn't get out and go, my shoulder is kind of hurting. Nothing. Nothing.
Now, I may be a little biased because of what happened early today, but I thought Dany Garcia just shined in this episode. Her quest to help Clayton in the way that she could have never helped Nick. Really, really nice character arc, a good turnaround from having her lay on the floor and just kind of, sulk over the fact that Nick is dead. And I'm hoping that it's a turnaround in her character. Did you get the feeling while you were watching that it was about a lot more than just a beer?
It was absolutely a lot more than that. And I mean, it was finally a chance, right? It was finally a chance to do something selfless for another person. And she went above and beyond to try and find just a beer. Like a root beer wasn't doing it. She didn't come back with medicine or any other attempts or I'm sorry or nothing. She kept going and she moved quickly and fiercely because the injury that he sustained was detrimental enough that you're not going to get more than maybe a couple hours. I mean, because you are bleeding, you are broken, the body's going into shock. There's plenty of things that are going to happen that are going to speed this along. And so she moved pretty quickly because, I mean, it didn't even seem like it was any darker when she got back. So I'm impressed. And just the raw emotion that was put out from Danay in this episode was just wonderful. Like she emoted so well in this episode that I was really impressed. And that's one of the things that has happened in this half of the season is some of the episodes have been very slow and they haven't moved the way I'd like them to move. But the acting for the most part has been really good. I could ask for maybe some better writing, but the emotion that we're getting from these actors, I don't know who is directing these things to get this kind of emotion out of them, but it is working. They really have been able to convey genuine emotion with very few words at some of these times. And I really appreciate that because it's a hard thing to do, and they've done really well.
This might be her best bit of acting. I mean, she did a real good job when Nick died. It was really painful to watch, and your heart really went out for her. But this might be her best acting to date on the series. She really put it out there, and you're right, the rest of the cast have. And that leads me back to Coleman Domingo and Garrett Dillahunt haven't done a lot of scenes together, but they are amazing. I mean, these characters are two opposite sides of the very same coin. The one's positive, thinking about everyone else but himself, and another guy is a little more self-serving and I'm going to hunker down rather than go look for everybody else, and the only thing I want is alcohol. I love the way that they interact together. It
does work, and that's why I'm glad that they ended up together in this part. But they need to get him with some other people because Garrett Dillahunt is he's too good to leave him just with Victor Strand all by himself. It's a fun pairing to watch, but they need to get him around some more people. And that's the only way they're going to get Strand to quit drinking is to get him around other people. They need to show him some positivity in this world because that's what's slowing him down.
Did you think that Raft 2.0 might have had a better chance than the first one?
Raft 2.0 might have done better if they had ore 0.5 because the ores were junk. What were they, milk jugs that were not in great shape tied to the end of sticks? They could have come up with a better, even if they had cut a part of the milk jug out just to do better. I mean, and wouldn't you have built some kind of harness to make sure you don't lose your ore? I knew it would float, but you got to move. You got to start getting across the damn lake quickly, and they weren't. They were taking their time. And it's another one of those lazy writing techniques because it really isn't that much distance to cross. So could they have gotten across pretty quickly? They probably could have swam across in the time that they had that siren going, and that might have actually been more effective, but they'd have had to be a little quieter and make sure that the gator was overeating the people. But I don't know. I'm a believer that there were better ways to do that, and I think they were about halfway across. So, once you reach halfway, turning back is moot. I don't know why they turned back.
But I think that halfway, the other side of the river is where the alligator was primarily hanging out. So I guess I understand why you'd want to go the opposite way. So it turns out Clayton is Polar Bear, because that's his name. And he gets his dying wish and bestows on Lucy journals of stockpiles of resources. Is this the beginning of Lucy's road to redemption, you think?
Oh, very well could be, because it seems like he has stockpiled quite a bit. which is awesome. Like, there's a lot of stuff out there that he has prepared, I think, in anticipation of there being a larger community happening sometime soon. At least that's what I'm hoping, because it really seemed like it was page after page of very detailed directions and what was at each spot. So, I mean, there could be medications at one, food at another, potable water, all kinds of things that can really help you along. And then maybe generators and other things that'll help you survive. So this could really work in the benefit of the gang. So at least that's what I'm hoping.
Well, in the end, the filthy lady has Al's tank and attacks Morgan and company. Your thoughts on the episode and your rating?
I liked the episode. I liked it a lot. It was really well shot. It was beautiful to look at. One of the things they've done this season better than any of the previous is a lot of their establishing shots are really more unique and beautiful to look at and really help set a tone. And that's one of the things that helps get you in the mood to watch these, even though they're not moving as fast as I would like. So they're going to lose some points for continuing to not get further along, but then they're going to gain some points for the scariest person that I've seen on either Fear or The Walking Dead in a long time. Because Negan, while ferocious, wasn't really scary. Like, you knew what he was doing because he told you what he was doing. The dirty lady, like, we have no idea what her end game is, and she's like absolutely terrifying. So there's points that can go either direction here, but I really liked this one probably more than any other one this half of the season for sure. I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah, I agree with you. I enjoyed this episode a lot. Even though there wasn't a lot of action involved, there was some great character moments, and you can tell that the writers are really planning for a long-term future of this show. And Fear very well might outlast the regular Walking Dead. It had a lot deeper meaning than just a beer. We had a few jump the shark movements. I mean, John's able to chop wood, but he can't row a boat. And the walker was strong enough to pull Victor inside the truck with him. I wasn't crazy about that. Overall, I love the episode. I would probably give it an 8 too. I mean, you couldn't have done much more with what you had going on. We've got 3 episodes left to the season. Where do you think they go from here? Do you think they reunite before the finale?
I think they're going to start reuniting in clumps. I think there's still going to be some travel. I think they're going to maybe encounter 1 or 2 more people. Hopefully, at least I hope they're going to largen the group. But I think this next episode, they're going to get some of them together. The episode after that, the rest of them will come together. And that one is when we're going to kind of get some more end game idea of the dirty lady. And then the season finale, they'll come up with something kind of cool to drive it into the next season. I don't think we're going to see the end of that dirty lady. I think it's just going to be the beginning of her plan. Like, we're going to get some idea of what she's trying to do. I'm excited for it. I think it could work.
Well, and they left us with a cliffhanger too, which they really haven't done on this show very often, where are we going to lose anybody? Those guns can really seriously do some damage, and she opened up on them. So I'm more worried about the people in the front of the truck than I am the people in the back of the truck, and we can't lose Sarah and Wendell so early. I'm kind of mixed about Jimbo. I really could care less either way. I'm not in love with the character, but those two bring something like a comic relief to the show that we really didn't have, other than once in a while we would get a quip from Strand, but we have somebody that's straight up funny now, and I really hope they stay a while. Do you think we lose anybody in this open barrage of the war against the filthy lady?
Maybe Jimbo, and that would be okay because he knows how to make beer. If he knew how to make whiskey, that would be different. We need to save him, but we can lose him for beer.
Great episode. We did an interview with Dany Garcia earlier. We're going to continue to turn these shows out till The Walking Dead comes back. We're going to continue to do as many interviews as we can. You can find us over at CINIKRADIO.com. You can find pretty much everything you need to know about the show there. And that's pretty much all we have. IG. And until next time.
Don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at CINIKRADIO.com. Available for download on iTunes.